Is Gukesh a worthy world champion? I would have to say yes. Yes, he is. Welcome back, everyone. Today I want to talk about a quote that has sparked a lot of debate in the chess world. It comes from none other than Garry Kasparov, who said this about the reigning world champion Gukesh Dommaraju. I have to apologize time and again. It's not exactly the title that I had, or Karpov had, or Fischer or Magnus. Strong words from a legend, and it's left the chess community split about what does it mean to be world champion in 2025, and where does Gukesh's reign fit into the bigger story of the title. This video is going to be broken up into a couple of parts, so if you want to skip forward, there will be time codes in the description. But part 1 will be the weight of the World Championship. The Chess World Championship is unlike most other sports. In football, basketball, or tennis, there isn't just one player with the crown. There are tournaments, there are rankings, and there are medals. In chess, though, there's always been this mythical world champion, a single person meant to embody supremacy over everyone else. And historically, that title has carried enormous weight. Steinitz, Capablanca, Alekhine, Fischer, Karpov, Kasparov, Anand, Carlsen, all names that have defined their eras. But here's the complication. The system has changed many times. We forget this. Karpov never beat Fischer over the board to claim his crown. Khalifman, Ponomarov, and Kazmizadov all won their titles in the FIDE knockout tournament. Carlsen walked away from the title in 2023 because he was no longer motivated. The cycle, candidates to match, has always been fragile, and it reflects the politics of chess as much as the purity of competition. Now, if we move into part 2, directly addressing Kasparov's criticism. So when Kasparov says that Gukesh's title is not exactly the same as his, Fischer's, or Magnus's, what is he getting at? I think Kasparov is pointing to something quite real. Right now, Gukesh is not the number 1 player by rating. Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Fabiano Caruana still cast long shadows. And for some, the fact that Carlsen chose to walk away means that Gukesh didn't beat the best in the world in order to become champion. But here's the catch. That's not Gukesh's fault. He didn't choose to duck anybody. He went into the candidates as the youngest player, an 18-year-old, facing Caruana, Nakamura, Nepomniachtchi, Firouzja, and Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu. Absolute giants and titans of the game. And he won. He did what was asked of him. He followed the rules of the cycle. If Magnus had stayed, Gukesh would have had to face him. But Magnus left. That's the reality. You can't hold that against a 19-year-old who just fought through the hardest tournament in chess, the candidates. Now let's talk about, in part 3, about the community debate. One of the reactions I found on Twitter, I found quite funny in response to Kasparov. F everything else but being a teenager and playing at the highest level while people demean your achievements is tormenting. That's certainly one side. The argument is, stop disrespecting Gukesh. He earned it, period. Other people have pointed out that chess is unique in that some of its greatest players have voluntarily stepped away from the title. Fischer, Kasparov himself at points, Hao Yifan, Judith Polgar, and of course Magnus Carlsen. In other words, the title doesn't always equal the best player alive. So then, what are we left with? Some say if you delegitimize Gukesh's title because Carlsen left, then you have to delegitimize every champion since Bobby Fischer, because Fischer also walked away. If you respect Anatoly Karpov, you have to respect Gukesh's reign. Some other people say no. The title should mean best of the best. And right now, that's not true. And this is where we begin to talk about into part 4, the long wait for a match. What makes this debate even sharper is the fact that Gukesh has now gone all of 2025 and will likely go most of 2026 without a World Championship match. This gap in the cycle has fueled the scrutiny, because without a title defense, people feel like Gukesh is holding the crown more than he's defending it. Compare this to the eras of Fischer, Kasparov or Carlsen, where the champion was tested more frequently in match play. Maybe not always the same, but it's not Gukesh's fault. It's the structure of the calendar, it's FIDE's organization, and the timing of the candidates. It only happens next year. But it does add to the perception that his reign, so far, it's in limbo. He is world champion, yes, but we're waiting to see his mettle in a classical match against a top contender. The Dingley-Ren he faced was not peak Dingley-Ren, and it probably doesn't reflect the best in the world. And until that happens, the debate about the weight of his title isn't going away. But now let's talk about how he is performing in what I will now dub part 5, what being a champion really means. Here's my take, right? Oh, sorry. I've skipped a little bit here. Part 5 is Gukesh's 2025 results, a champion's year. Here's the thing, right? While Gukesh is waiting for his match, he's not sitting about. His 2025 results tell the story of a player who is competing at the very highest level, and often excelling. At Tata Steel 2025, he tied for first place, only losing out to his compatriot Pragyananda, who was in the candidates, on tie breaks. So that's a silver medal performance in one of the world's most prestigious classical events. At Norway Chess, he finished 3rd overall, and along the way he defeated Magnus Carlsen in dramatic fashion. That alone is the kind of moment that cements legitimacy. His outings in freestyle chess, which he has played two events, it's been fine. Nothing noteworthy, but he's still adapting. He hasn't played as many events as some of the other players. Right now he's playing in the Singfield Cup and he is really struggling. He's on 3.5 out of 8. 3.5 out of 8. But it's a super field. It's a really strong field. So he's not having a great event there. But one tournament is not going to define everything. Looking ahead, he'll be in the Grand Swiss in September. And perhaps, most excitingly, he will face Magnus Carlsen again in a brand new chess tournament in St. Louis called Clutch Chess. And there, perhaps, we will see him. Even in Rapid and Blitz, he's making his mark. He got 3rd place at the Super United Rapid and Blitz in Croatia. He finished between 6th and 7th in the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, and earlier this year he was even a runner-up at Title Tuesday. So no, this is not a champion who's fading into the background while waiting for a match. Gukesh is active, he's competitive, and is proving that his candidate's victory was no fluke. Moving to part 6 now. What being a champion really means. Here's my take. The World Championship is two things at once. It's a historical title. The line of succession from Steinitz to now that has enormous symbolic weight. Gukesh is now part of that story. But it's also a competitive crown. The best player alive test. And right now, that part, it's not clear. Because Magnus Carlsen is still the most dominant figure in chess, even without the crown. So yes, Kasparov's point has some merit. The title today doesn't quite mean what it did when Fischer or Kasparov were holding it. But that doesn't diminish Gukesh. It reflects a shift in the chess world. We now live in an era where the title and the top rating don't always align. And now let's talk a little bit now in this final part about Gukesh the person and Gukesh the champion. And maybe this is what's most important, Gukesh himself. He's 19 years old, the youngest ever candidate winner, now the youngest classical world champion. He is carrying the hopes of an entire country with one of the richest chess cultures on earth. Imagine being a teenager and not only playing at this level, but doing so while legends like Kasparov dismiss your crown. That takes resilience and it takes character. Quite honestly, he might just not be listening to them. And Gukesh has every chance to grow into the undisputed best in the world. He's not there yet, but he's climbing, and he's climbing quickly. The story of his reign is still being written. So in conclusion, where does that leave us? The World Championship is complicated. It has always been. Its legitimacy has always been debated, from Karpov to Kalifman to today. But one fact is beyond dispute. Gukesh played the cycle that existed. He won, and his name is etched forever into chess history. Whether you think the title represents the absolute best player or just the champion of the cycle, Gukesh is the world champion. And maybe, just maybe, instead of tearing him down, we should recognize what an extraordinary achievement it is, and give him the space to grow into the legend he may yet become. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is Gukesh's reign as legitimate as Kasparov's or Carlsen's, or is the World Championship changing into something new?